A single dinner turned into a war zone when I finally stood up to my golden child sister and exposed the cracks in our perfect family. I thought I'd lose them all that night. What I didn't expect was the truth that shattered everything. It was a humid July evening, the kind where the air clings to your skin like damp cotton. The family dinner at my parents' house was supposed to be routine. Same old casserole, same chipped plates, same forced smiles around the oak table that had seen decades of arguments and apologies. But this night was different. This night I decided I was done swallowing my words. It started with something small, as these things often do. My younger sister, Leela, made a snide comment about my job, or lack thereof, in her eyes. Still freelancing, huh, Emma? Must be nice to just drift. Her tone was sharp, the kind of jab she'd been perfecting since we were kids. Normally, I'd let it slide, laugh it off, keep the peace. But I was tired. Tired of her digs, tired of Mom's enabling sighs, tired of Dad's silence that always felt like agreement. So I snapped back. Leela, not everyone needs a corner office to feel valid. At least I'm not miserable in my skin. The table went quiet. Mom's fork froze midair. Dad's eyes flicked up from his plate, and Leela's face turned a shade of red I hadn't seen since she was 10, and I'd accidentally broken her favorite doll. I thought that was it, just a moment of tension we'd all smooth over with dessert. But I was wrong. That one sentence cracked something open, and what spilled out was a mess of secrets, resentment, and a betrayal so raw it still stings to think about. Let me back up. I'm Emma, 32, the middle child in a family that's always felt like a tightrope walk. Mom's the peacemaker, always smoothing edges with her nervous laughter. Dad's the stoic type, a retired mechanic who'd rather fix a carburetor than a family feud. Leela, 28, is the golden child, lawyer, engaged to a finance bro, always the one who made it. Then there's our older brother, Nate, who moved across the country a decade ago and only shows up for holidays, usually with a new girlfriend and a fresh excuse for why he's too busy to call. Me, I'm the artsy one, the freelancer who writes for magazines and blogs, scraping by but loving the freedom. Or at least I did until that night. After my retort, Leela didn't back down. She leaned forward, her perfectly manicured nails tapping the table. You're always so defensive, Emma. Maybe if you'd actually tried to build something stable, we wouldn't have to tiptoe around you. Tiptoe? I laughed, but it was bitter. You've been stomping on me for years, Leela. You all have. Mom gasped. Emma, that's not fair, isn't it? I cut her off, my voice louder than I meant it to be. Every time I visit, it's the same thing. Leela's perfect, Nate's excused, and I'm the screw-up who can't get her life together. I'm done with it. Dad finally spoke, his voice low. You're not a screw-up, Emma, but you do make things harder than they need to be. That stung. I'd always thought Dad was on my side in his quiet way. But his words landed like a verdict. I was the problem, always had been. I felt the room tilt, like the ground wasn't solid anymore. I should have stopped there, walked away, cooled off. But something in me, years of bottled-up frustration, maybe, pushed me forward. Harder for who, Dad? For you? For Mom, who can't handle anyone raising their voice? Or for Leela, who's so obsessed with her perfect life she can't stand that I'm not jealous of it? Leela's fiancé, Mark, who'd been silent until now, cleared his throat. Emma, maybe you should calm down. Don't, I said, pointing at him. You don't get to play referee here. You've been in this family for what, a year? You don't know the half of it. Emma, Mom's voice was sharp now, her peacemaker mask slipping. That's enough. But it wasn't enough. Not for me, not anymore. I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood. You all act like I'm the one who's failing, but you're the ones hiding things. Like how Leela's been lying about her perfect life. Or how you, Mom, keep pretending everything's fine when it's not. And Dad, you just sit there letting it all happen. I'm done being the punching bag. The room was a vacuum, every breath sucked out. Leela's eyes narrowed, and I saw something flicker there, fear maybe, or guilt. What are you talking about? She said, but her voice wasn't as steady as before. I didn't have proof, not yet. Just a gut feeling built from years of watching her dodge questions about her job, her late nights, the way Mark sometimes looked at her like he was waiting for something to break. But I'd heard whispers, mutual friends dropping hints about Leela's stress at work, about Mark's concerns. I didn't know the details, but I knew enough to call her bluff. You tell me, Leela, I said. What's going on with you? Because I'm not the only one in this room with secrets. She stood up too, her face a mix of anger and panic. You're unhinged, Emma. You're just making things up because you can't handle that I've actually done something with my life. Done something? I shot back. Like what? Lie to everyone about how perfect you are? Or maybe you're lying to Mark too. That was when Mark stood, his jaw tight. What's that supposed to mean? The air was electric, everyone poised for a fight or a confession. Mom was crying softly now, Dad's hands were clenched on the table, and I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff. I didn't know what was coming, but I knew it was big. Leela broke first. "You want to talk about secrets?" she said, her voice shaking. "Fine, let's talk about yours, Emma, like how you've been borrowing money from Mom and Dad for years and never paid it back. Or how you told Nate you didn't want him at your birthday last year because you were embarrassed of him." I froze. The money thing wasn't a secret. I'd borrowed a few grand over the years, always with promises to repay, always intending to. But Nate, that was a lie. I'd never said that. I loved Nate even if he was distant. I looked at Mom, hoping she'd correct Leela, but she just stared at her plate, tears dripping onto the tablecloth. "Leela, that's not true," I said, my voice quieter now, but no one seemed to hear me. Mark was staring at Leela, his face unreadable. Dad was looking at me like I'd just confessed to a crime. And then Mom spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "Emma, why didn't you tell us you were struggling so much?" "I'm not," I started, but she kept going. "We've always tried to help you, but you push us away. And now you're attacking Leela because, what, you're jealous." Jealous, the word hit like a slap. I wasn't jealous of Leela, not her job, not her fiancé, not her life. I was angry, sure, but it was because I'd spent years feeling like the family's afterthought, the one who didn't fit into their neat little narrative. But now, somehow, I was the villain. "Leela's lying," I said, my voice steady despite the chaos in my chest. "I never said that about Nate, and the money, I've been paying you back when I can, you know that." Dad shook his head. "You always have an excuse, Emma." That was when I felt it, the betrayal. Not just Leela's lie, but the way Mom and Dad were so quick to believe her. The way they looked at me like I was the one who'd broken the family. I wanted to scream to demand they see the truth, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the realization that they'd already chosen sides. I grabbed my purse and walked to the door. "I'm done," I said. "You can believe whatever you want, but I'm not doing this anymore." "Emma, wait," Mom called, but I was already out the door, the humid night air hitting me like a wave. I drove home in a daze, my phone buzzing with texts I didn't read. When I got to my apartment, I locked the door and sat on the couch, staring at the wall, trying to piece together what had just happened. The next few days were a blur. Leela didn't call, which wasn't surprising. Mom sent a few tentative texts asking me to talk it out, but I wasn't ready. Dad didn't reach out at all, but Nate did. He called from Seattle, his voice calm but concerned. "Em, what the hell happened at dinner?" he asked. I told him everything, Leela's jab, my outburst, her lie about me and him. He was quiet for a long time before he said, "She's lying. I know you'd never say that about me, but there's something you need to know." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Leela's been having an affair," he said. "I found out a few months ago from a friend who works at her firm. She's been seeing one of her colleagues. Mark doesn't know." I felt sick. Not because I was shocked, part of me had suspected something was off with Leela, but because she'd turned the tables on me, made me the bad guy to cover her own mess. And Mom and Dad had bought it. "Nate, why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "I didn't want to stir things up. I figured it wasn't my place, but after what you told me, I think you deserve to know." I hung up, my mind racing. Leela's lie about me was a distraction, a way to shift the focus from her own crumbling life. But knowing the truth didn't make me feel better. It just made the betrayal deeper, wider, like a chasm I couldn't cross. Over the next few weeks, I tried to piece my family back together. I called Mom, told her what Nate had said. She didn't believe me at first, said I was misinterpreting things. Dad stayed silent, as always. Leela refused to talk, and Mark sent me a curt text saying I'd caused enough damage. But the truth has a way of surfacing, doesn't it? A month later, Mark called me. His voice was raw, like he'd been crying. "You were right," he said. "About Leela. I found out about the affair. I'm leaving her." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, but mostly I just felt empty. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. Not for Leela, but for him, for all of us. That was 6 months ago. Things haven't been the same since. Leela moved out, living alone now, her perfect life in tatters. Mom and Dad still talk to me, but it's strained, like they're waiting for me to apologize for something I didn't do. Nate and I are closer than ever, but he's still across the country, and phone calls aren't the same as having him here. As for me, I'm still freelancing, still scraping by, but I'm okay with that. I've started setting boundaries, saying no to things that don't serve me. I'm not the villain in this story, but I'm not the hero either. I'm just Emma, trying to figure out who I am when the people I love most don't see me clearly. The truth unraveled that night, and it's still unraveling. Secrets don't stay buried forever, and neither does resentment. I don't know if my family will ever be whole again, But I do know one thing. I'm done being the one who takes the blame. And that's a start. So that is for today. Next update is coming soon. Make sure to subscribe and click bell notification on that next updates will reach on you.